Let's talk to you. That's right. It's the only podcast that asks the question, can we talk to you? And then answers that question. Yes. Let's talk to you. Let's listen to our first guest. Guest, are you online?
Yeah. Hi.
Hi, guest. What's your name?
My name is Bob.
Bob.
And, yep. And I've got a new show out now. Actually, well, I'm in season 5 of that show. Have you seen that?
No, you're in season 5. Like you're watching it, or you're on it?
I'm on it. I'm an actor on it. Yeah. It's actually a very good show. It's on Netflix.
Bob the actor.
Yep.
Yeah, no, it's on Netflix. It's popular. What was it like being on the show?
Well, I mean, it was a pretty big jump from my earlier roles, where before, I was mostly in kind of sci-fi things. And this is more of a mystery action kind of thing, where, you're trying to find out, am I the killer? Am I not? I can't give that away, obviously, now. But I think you all should stick around and watch to the very end.
Wow, that's a really powerful endorsement, I think. And that's us talking to you. We're going to take a quick break and be right back with Let's Talk to You, or whatever it was called. Hello there, I'm the military. You should join the military. If you want a big old gun, we'll give you a gun. You can get it at the military. Join the military. www.themilitary.mil. That's it. All right. Join the military. See ya. And we're back with Let's Talk to You. We've got Bob on the line. What's up, Bob? How's it going? Did we get your last name, Bob?
Yeah. Bob Thornhill.
Wow, Bob Thornhill. And let's just give a round of applause to Bob Thornhill. You've been punked. That's right. You're not on the show I was saying on. I'm Ashton Kutcher, rips off masks, reveals Ashton Kutcher's face. You've been punked. Look there. There's a camera. It's right in front of you.
I feel so foolish. I should have known.
Yeah, you did see the camera there. It's like right in your face. It's like pointed right at your head.
You get used to cameras being around you in your face all the time, and you don't notice one more. I'm a huge fan, Ashton. I didn't recognize you under all that makeup and prosthetics. It's an honor to be here.
I'm not Ashton Kutcher. Rip. I'm Jamie Kennedy, and you've been X'd. This is an episode of the Jamie Kennedy Experiment. What's up? What's up, Kevin? How's it going? And you're Kevin. Rip. I take off
Rip.
Bob's mask, and it's Kevin. You've been X'd as well.
Rip it off one more time. I'm Alan Funt.
What's Alan Funt? What a name. Alan Funt, huh?
I know. That's such a... Yeah.
Is Alan Funt... That sounds like an old person name. Is that an old person reference? Did you make an old person reference?
Yeah, he did Candid Camera, which was like the predecessor to all of those shows. Yeah.
That's not that old of a reference, I guess. But I didn't know. I've heard the name Alan Funt, but I did not associate him with the Candid Camera. I don't know if Candid Camera was ever on. I feel like you sometimes saw clips of it that were played on other television shows or something, but I don't think I saw like live Candid Camera.
Like, I think it like never got syndication, or if it did, it was super expensive or something. Like, it was one of those things that it was so rare to catch on TV that, it was sort of an event when you got to see it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know, man. Event television. Do you remember? Did you ever watch? I used to watch like Family Guy and stuff, but there was this episode of like, I think it was like a Sunday night Fox block where it was like the storm, and it's like all of our shows are experiencing the storm. Do you remember this?
I do remember that. Yeah.
I was like, hey, this is pretty cool. And I think in American Dad, the storm had like a shark, like it was like flooding, the person's house was flooding. So like there was a shark in their house, which, Eventually, they made that movie about the crocodile, which was basically that exact same premise. And when that movie was like in trailers, I was like, "That's from American Dad." Like that's just basically the exact idea, but you kind of remove a bit of the comedy when it's a crocodile as opposed to like a shark. Because a crocodile has a little bit more mobility and is also plausibly in the area, whereas a shark, it's just comedic. It's like, well, the shark's not going to be in a flooded house. But the
Didn't
storm.
like in the 90s or maybe even a little bit, I don't remember, but like on NBC, I think it was where like it was during their must see TV thing where like all the shows had to do like a very special thing about, I can't remember, it was some current, it was like AIDS or something, like like every show had to talk about AIDS that night, and it was all really ham-fisted and forced, and you could tell the writers just did not want to do it, but they had to.
Yeah, I don't think I remember that one specifically, but I do feel like there was that in like old kind of TV. It was more typical for there to be like a special programming thing where it's a bunch of different episodes or a bunch of different shows or kind of like, I don't know, at least in the same theme or something. Maybe I'm just talking out of my ass.
I mean, I do kind of miss like the appointment television, the event kind of thing of like, I remember like even as recently as 30 Rock did that, where they did it live and the East Coast and the West Coast got a different version of it. Like they did it twice, stuff like that today just nobody would care about. And that wasn't even that long ago,
Yeah. And I mean, there's the watch parties on Twitch and stuff. And obviously Schraub Home Video is like, kind of about watching stuff in a group, and Twitch in general is kind of about watching stuff in the group, and the kind of advent of streaming and stuff. I think like there's a big untapped market for instance, having a Netflix button that says at this time, if you press this button, everybody's going to watch the show as it starts airing, and maybe there is a chat room. It's probably not a chat room on screen, but like maybe you can join a chat room on your phone or something, and I think there's also room, Pluto TV, I believe, does this, which is like one of the only streamers that does this. But, I think a lot of streaming channels could be all like, hey, we're just going to have, I don't know how you do it technically, but we're just gonna have like a run of stuff, like a playlist of stuff, and if you want to check out this channel, we'll just have this playlist channel. Like this is the Star Wars or Star Trek channel. We play all the Star Treks, or we play these Star Treks over and over, or something. Or I don't know. And then you can even have people come and curate playlists and be all like, this is the fucking, we're letting fucking famous person, we're letting Cardi B come and do the Cardi B mix, and it's Cardi B night at Netflix. I don't know. I think there's like so much, I don't know, like more you can do with streaming than we've done. And they've reduced it into the just kind of binge watching, which isn't bad, but it's not the only way to do things. And, it's kind of like it kind of diminishes the cultural footprint of a lot of things into, what does or doesn't have like Squid Game level releases,
Yeah.
But
well, like a while back, Apple added this thing called SharePlay to iPhones, where like you can FaceTime with other people and one person can like start a show and you all watch it together. Yeah. And I thought for sure that was going to be like the most popular thing and everyone was going to be doing it. And I haven't even talked to anybody who's heard of this feature, let alone used it. Like they did.
Because I think the problem is we're talking about similar ideas, right? But the problem with the SharePlay is it becomes something you have to initiate. Whereas Schraub Home Video and kind of what I'm more pitching is like, no, this is just here. You can come to it and then you can talk about it to people or find people from it to talk about with it. Again, that's why streaming works. It's not like you necessarily have to go like, oh, hey, Kevin, I heard about this new streamer. You can watch the streamer and talk to other people watching the streamer and go like, oh, look at that person's shoe, or whatever. But it's like the community builds out of like having the being there-ness. But the apps, the front ends of the apps, they don't have like, these capabilities built into, which doesn't seem like a huge opportunity cost. It doesn't seem like it's that much more expensive than they making like one show or something to implement this kind of, at least page. It doesn't have to be a whole layer. It could just be like one tab of the thing, and then if it doesn't work, it's a broken tab or something. I don't know, but like it doesn't seem like a huge investment to try, but it could really break open like how stuff is doing. And obviously Twitch and TikTok are showing that there's like different ways to do stuff, and obviously YouTube has as well, but I don't know, whatever. Has it been an hour yet? It's been like, we're done, right? We're done.
We are. Yep.
No, man, I don't know. I've had a little bit of bad luck lately, or clumsiness, or whatever. I went on a hike, and it wasn't a hike. It wasn't a proper hike. I go on hikes. This was more of a walk. But it was at a park. It was just flat, whatever. But so there's this bridge that's cool, and the bridge has a middle kind of road for cars. Not that any cars come through other than like service vehicles, but then it also has curbs, like sidewalk curbs, but the sidewalk curbs are raised like, I want to say like 9 inches. Like it's easily double a curb, like a double sized height curb. And I was looking off the bridge because there's this like a reservoir that fills up with water when it rains, and it's been raining like crazy lately. But so I was looking at the water, and it's all crazy to see the dam full because it's usually just dust, and then I don't know what I was doing, but I turn around and I there's this thing. I don't know if anyone does it. You probably don't do this, Kevin, because it's like a slight whimsical thing. But it's a way to step off a curb where you kind of just have your weight, the foot that's not with your weight, the foot with the weight off of it. You have that just over the vacuum, the nothing, the void, and then you kind of quickly just scoot your other foot to kind of now kick you off into oblivion. So then you just kind of fall, and then you're only falling about a curb. So it's not enough to like change your mechanics, and you just go scoot, plop, and then you're just on the ground. You hit with both feet. You hit kind of hard because you don't land like you're jumping. You just land like, yeah. And so I think I did that. But somehow either I did it wrong, or because the curb is so much higher or whatever, I just completely ate shit. Like I landed on my knees, and then before I like had my face, I like caught myself with my hands and stuff, and I got like the slightest like scratches that have healed basically instantly, like the most minor scrapes on my hands, the heels of my hands, and I scraped up my right knee a little bit, and I scraped my left knee real bad. Like I want to say, I don't know how many layers of skin there are, but I want to say I took off a good 5. Like a good 4 to 7. Like it was past the top layers that can like toughen, and it was like, no, now you're into the meat. Like this part of the flesh was never going to become skin. Like we got to build multiple layers of skin to put onto this thing before we're like done. And I was, it was in a park, so it's not clean, but it's not dirty. Like it's kind of dirty. It's not like dirty because it wasn't like in the forest. It was like paved, but it was dusty. And so I was like, shit, man. And I just kind of like roll over, and I was like, I gotta sit for a second. I just gotta like recover, So I'm sitting for a while, just trying to get my energy back, and I'm like, I gotta fucking disinfect this. So I go back to my car, I go to the bathroom, I'm like washing my knee off, and then I get into my car, and then I have hand sanitizer, and so I'm like, well, I really should disinfect this, and so I put hand sanitizer on it, and it burns so bad, it hurts so bad, so I can't stomach it for very long, and then I kind of like start to dab it off and wipe it off, but I leave it there to try and disinfect it and stuff, and then I go home, take a shower, get cleaned up and stuff. But I must have done something wrong or whatever, because eventually, like a couple days later, I got infected. Oh, but also like the next day or the day after that or something, I was like at my friend's house, and I was sitting in a chair, and I fucking ate shit out of sitting in a chair, and I like landed on my head, and I like broke my glasses, and so like the arm of the glasses completely like twisted, and it fucking sucked. It bent the screw in half. And I eventually went home. I got like pliers and the glasses repair kit, and I like bent everything back into shape and got the screw out and got a new screw in. So it's like it's mostly back to being fine, but it's not perfect. Like it's worse than it was because it's like it just has more, the joint has more play. It was like more kind of like fixed before, more tight. And so I ate shit like twice in like 2 or 3 days, and then like on the third or fourth day, I like put a bunch of antibacterial ointment or whatever on my knee, and it made it like soaked into the wound or something and like puffed up the scab or something. It made it like get all gummy and liquidy and made it look kind of like pus or something. But it's like I don't think it's like it started secreting pus. I think it's somehow like liquefied, or I was looking it up and it seems like it can macerate your skin tissue or something. So I think it was like kind of making it into this weird goop consistency that looked disgusting. And then I was like, well, is it infected? And it started hurting pretty bad. So I was like, I feel like I just did this to myself, but at the same time, it's like it's hurting pretty bad. It's been like 2 or 3 days, and that's like it could very well be infected. Like I said, it was really deep. Like it was a really big scrape. So I went to urgent care. And it was great. I've never been to urgent care before. I've always been to the ER. You know, we've talked about this before a little bit. And there was 3 people in there. They all got seen in short order. I got seen. The guy gave me a coupon for an antibiotic. He was like, you should take antibiotics. He gave me a coupon. He said, you don't want to give the health industry any more money. And I was like, and this is the doctor saying that, you know, so I was like, hey, I like this guy. He's a badass. But it was really quick. He didn't even clean it up or anything. He was like, yeah, this is fine. You're just going to take the antibiotic to be safe. And so now I'm doing that. But man, this storm, have you had crazy weather? Is it just like LA or something?
Not here, at least.
Yeah.
How crazy did it get?
It snowed in Burbank. I don't know if you heard this.
I did.
Yeah. But it apparently snowed in Burbank. I wasn't there, but it got all sorts of crazy weather. What I saw a lot of was just slush, it was just something that kind of happens when it's going to hail or when it's post hail. You kind of go between slush and hail, and I think how that works is like the precipitation goes up and down and kind of freezes more or less, and so like when it does that less, it comes out as this slush, which is very much like just like droplets of Slurpee or something. And then there's the hail. But apparently there was legit snow or whatever. It might not be proper snow, but because snow is usually like in flakes, and this was like big chunks of snow already formed together, so that might be something else. I don't know. I think Chris Boruff called it grauple or something, but that seems like that's too far. I don't know if I want to get that deep into weather, like. But the hail was crazy. The rain was crazy. It's been raining, was it last year or whatever? But it was raining really crazy pretty recently. And I feel like this rain was even crazier. It was probably less rain, but it was like a way shorter period of time. And there's snow in the mountains everywhere. It was crazy. There's snow. I climbed up a mountain in Burbank, and there was snow on that mountain. So it's like, I've been up there, and it was as low as I've ever seen it. I went to my hometown to see if there was, because it said that the blizzard warning was for Ventura County, which is where I'm from. So I went there, my hometown, and drove around. There was no snow like in the immediate area, but you could see it pretty low in the mountains there too. And I was like, oh, that's interesting, because I don't know. When I was living in my hometown and stuff, you would read that snow would happen in the next town over and stuff, but it would never happen where we lived. And I wonder if it ever got snow like Burbank did or what. Probably not. I don't know. It's crazy though. There's mudslides. And does this happen to you when it rains? Does it take out trees? Do the trees just go down?
We had an ice storm about a week and a half ago here, and that killed a lot of trees around here and took the power out and all kinds of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just because like there's not a lot of precipitation or whatever, so it's not used to that. But in LA, almost anytime we get the rain, like you lose a bunch of trees and big tree limbs. It's like it's like they're rotten or they're broken, but they're just stiff enough or petrified enough to like stay together. And then the softening of like the liquid is just enough to like make the top half of the split tree like come down or something, you know. But it's always crazy. But this was insane. Like there was easily 20 downed trees in Griffith Park, which there's always like one downed tree, but it was just like 20 in like one storm, and it's just crazy. Griffith Park had to be closed for at least a couple days, because it was just too messed up. And I went there afterwards, and you could just see the damage just barely cleaned up, you know. But it's like, Jesus Christ, like this whole thing came down, you know. And you know, I like being in Griffith Park, so it was pretty crazy to see like that. But I don't know, man. I don't know. I've just been trying to do writing stuff and get meetings booked and stuff. Trying to you know, we had Bill. We gotta have Bill back. But we had Bill Handstock on the podcast. And we never even talked to him about wrestling. We were gonna talk about wrestling. Apparently there's this Mountain Dew pitch black wrestling match that happened. It's like a tie-in for Mountain Dew Pitch Black, and I think Bill saw that, so I want to talk to him about that and see what he has to say about that. But we actually have been trying to like write stuff together, and so the past, you know, not year, but the past several months or few months or whatever, we've been putting together like 3 pilots and pitch packages, which a pitch package is when you like write kind of the idea for the show. You write like an intro paragraph that's basically like the elevator pitch. It's, you know, Angry Beavers meets Nickelodeon or whatever, you know, I don't know. You know, and then you explain it. It's like it's a 15-minute adult animated series or whatever, you know, following the exploits of a young meerkat who finds a new way of doing martial arts using spoons and telekinesis, or, you know, whatever, I don't know. But then you go into, you know, like what the format is, the main characters, the other characters, ideas for episodes, like the world of the show. It's stuff like that, you know. It's just a pitch package. I don't know. And then you go through and change it, and you know, hopefully you can get to pitch it to TV people, and hopefully they'll like it, and then you pitch. You know, I don't know. It's so we've been putting together pitch packages, and the pilot is a weird thing, like, because usually in the pitch stage, they don't care about the pilot and they don't read the pilot. It becomes really important after, and it generally becomes important that you had written a pilot, but at the same time, like, no one cares about the pilot at all until like the pitch package is seen and everyone's like, oh yeah, this is a great pitch, we like the idea. But at the same time, you can't just not, I mean, maybe you can, but I don't think you can just not write the pilot. I think you still have to write the pilot, but then just no one cares. Like, I don't know, it's this
is it
weird,
just to prove that you're capable of writing a pilot based off of the idea, like it's not some unproducible thing?
I think that's the thing, is that you're selling, because I've heard ideas in the past that sometimes it's like, yeah, but then you actually get to the pilot and then you try writing that, and it's like, yeah, but that's not what the show, like, that's not going to carry the entire show. Like, the show has to be about something different. And then it's like, oh, well, we haven't thought of that, you know. And so then it's like, oh, well, we got to go and figure out, you know, how to actually make this work. That's something that, you know, can happen. But so I think maybe, but I don't know. But again, it's like you'd expect the network to want to see that, but they don't check. Like, I don't even know that you necessarily send them the pilot. But I don't know. So we did that, and we got a meeting next week. And
what's it like writing a pilot? Like, for someone, like, I've never done it before. I know most of our listeners haven't. What's something that, you know, we might not expect about that process?
In general, I think the thing that you might not necessarily expect is, and I don't know, people might have different processes, but I think generally it happens that you do just a bunch of versions of an outline. Like, even just talking out a verbal pitch is like a form of outline, but then you like write it down as like a note card level idea, which is again just kind of like an elevator pitch. It's like Morty finds an alien in Rick's ass or whatever. I don't know. And then you dig into that deeper, and then sometimes you go, and then the B story is this, but overall it's just outlines about what happens, and then you get to a point, and then usually you get to the point where you're like kind of doing a little bit of dialogue, but not the full dialogue. And oftentimes that can be a sticking point where it's like, now that I actually have to say like a character does this and says these lines, and not just the character walks into the library and finds out that they lost their wallet or whatever, it's like actually putting that into dialogue and something. It's like, oh, this doesn't actually work. So, but it's just, I think it's just a lot of slightly and more elaborate outlines until you finally go to, the script. But a thing that's specific about the ones we've been doing is that Bill's been doing a huge amount of the work in terms of actually putting it down, which has been great. He's really great. It's been great working with him. It's great to. It's just fun. It's fun to do writing. I don't know, because what's stressful is not just kind of coming up with ideas, and like that's the thing is like as a dungeon master, it's like pitching just concepts and being like, what if it's this is like cool and fun. Oh shit, my laptop's gonna die. Go, Kevin. You gotta cover them while I make the camera stop working for a second.
All right. I always kind of felt like it would be difficult to take an idea. Like I can come up with ideas all the time, but taking an idea, turning that into like the outline that you're talking about, but then actually turning that into words that I want actors to speak just seems like such a huge leap. Like being able to put words in people's mouths and have reasonable conversations and, setting the scenes and things like that. It just seems like just this immense amount of work that, like I sat there and I watched Harmon write something, basically a fully fleshed out, you could go take this and to a director and shoot it today and get that done. But it just, to me, seems like this incredibly difficult leap of faith to get from idea to that I have trouble visualizing how you would do that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that's the hard part. I mean, it's easy to be like, oh, what if like time stopped moving, and like that's cool, and it's easy to go like, what about a guy who shoots lightning out of his brain, or whatever. But then to actually be like, what's interesting, and usually it's not actually that he can shoot lightning out of his brain, and like and trying to figure out like what the actual like show is, what the actual like piece of media is, and in the form of that, and how the ideas that you like about the idea can lend themselves to the whole thing. I don't know, it's that's the hardest part, I think, especially when you are trying to translate like a concept to actual episodes. Like sometimes you can be like, I have this really clear conceit, but then trying to actually put it down, it's like, I don't know. But I think that just comes from repetition and stuff. I think why Dan can just kind of write like that is because he has so much muscle memory in doing like his story structure specifically. So it's like he's kind of just trying to fill in blanks, almost like improvising, because he's like, well, I know, it's almost just like muscle memory to him. He can toss it off. But I think like when he's actually trying really hard, that's way harder than that. But it's still like he can still blast out the sentence. He just has a problem with it afterwards. It's just not the perfect sentence, but it always comes out really fast for him, which is really impressive. But I think that kind of speaks to his kind of philosophy. And, when he says the advice about proving that you suck, I think that all kind of comes from like his method, where I don't know, I get in my own head. That's what's been so great about working with people, is you can just bounce other ideas off of people, and you just, I don't know, having to be your own sounding board is just really hard, because when you get in a bad mood, then it's like, oh, the ideas just are bad. And it's like, well, are they? You don't know, you can't be objective, but having another person to kind of like center yourself in an actual space or something. It really changes that. So it's been cool, but I don't know. I've just been worried about money forever, and I still am. It's fine in the short term, but it's just like, Jesus Christ, I gotta fucking get something, you know? I don't know. What were you gonna say?
Just that, I know we've been going back to some of your past projects, but I think it's easier to ask you about past stuff than future things you have to like talk about in shadowy ways. When you're pitching something that's largely improvised to some level, like Harmon Quest was, are they still expecting you to have like a sample pilot written for this, or how did you pitch that?
That wasn't, no, that we kind of like pointed at the popularity of our podcast and the popularity of the D&D segment specifically, which, is kind of like when you're doing an adaptation and you just point to the popularity of the book or something. You don't necessarily have to have the pilot when you have an adaptation, whenever it's an adaptation, which it wasn't like an adaptation in that sense, but that's where the pitch came from. And also I think Dan just mentioned it offhanded one time to one of the executives, and they really ran with it. So it was also non-standard in that way, that they just seemed really into the idea for whatever reason. And that's why that was Amy Carlson. That's why, like, Dan was pitching something else, and I don't know why, but he just mentioned that, and she was really into it. And I think she moved around a lot, but she was ultimately why the pitch got made at CISO and that stuff. And so she's married to well, this is a bummer now. She was married to Trevor Moore, who tragically passed away, from The Whitest Kids You Know. But interesting connection. She was really good on Harmon Quest. She had great notes and stuff, and she like I said, she heard the pitch in the room offhanded and just stuck with the idea, and because of that, it got made. She always like had really clear ideas, seemed to really have a strong vision for what we were kind of pitching, or what Dan initially pitched at least. So it was really great working with her. It's cool. You hear so much about people freaking out about the network and getting notes and stuff, and it's not fun getting notes and stuff, but it's great when you're working with people that really get what you're trying to do, because even if their notes are wrong or you don't like doing them, it's like they know what the idea is, and they're just trying to make it better, just like everyone else who's working on the show, and that's all you can hope for. And it feels great, because it's like, hey, even the notoriously difficult to work with, executives seem to understand the idea. That's encouraging. They really are getting it, but yeah, that's such a I don't really know how you pitch an improvised thing, especially if it's not like an adaptation. But I think for a lot of improvised things, you do point to something you did, like what's his face? Middle Ditch is canceled now, I guess, but there is the Middle Ditch and Schwartz like Netflix series or whatever that was based on their, improv that they've done independently of that Netflix project. So I think that's a lot of it, is just saying like, hey, we do this, we're enough of a draw. But I think without Dan's name, it would be a hard sell anywhere. But that's ultimately why I think we sold it anyway, is because CISO seemed to really want big names, and Dan was a big name, Same thing with VRV, honestly. They were after fandoms. We're looking for fandoms. I think CISO was too. They were like, we'll just get all this built-in audience, and now they'll be paying us $5 instead. Don't think that was necessarily a good gamble. I don't think people were like, let's pay these guys.
I mean, I have absolutely no inside knowledge, and this is just me as an outsider looking in, but it felt like NBC at some point was just like, hey, we have to do streaming too. Everybody else has a streaming. I want a streaming. Sure. So they made one and then had no idea what to do with it. Like, the thing that just killed me about it was that, for one, nobody I knew had ever heard of CISO. And then at the time, they had made that the exclusive only place you could watch Saturday Night Live, but not once on Saturday Night Live did they show a commercial for it.
Yeah, it wasn't. Yeah, I don't know. The thing is, like, that we're kind of past that point now, at least seemingly. But back then, companies would do these really half-ass streaming efforts, and it's like, what are you thinking? Do you think you're just immediately going to start printing dollar signs with a shitty front end? Like, people are going to go to your site, be like, this sucks compared to Netflix, and unsubscribe and go watch Netflix. Like, people are really fickle and stuff. And like, there's not really a reason to be just getting all these services, because like, that's why people got away from it in the first place. I don't know, man. You hear about all this transgender stuff at CPAC. It's getting bad. It's getting real bad, man. They're gonna be the Jews and the Holocaust analog. The pretense for all the violence and stuff. It's not good how all this rhetoric is ramping up. It's getting scary,
It really just feels like someone just picked a cause that they thought they could outrage people by out of nowhere, and it's just all happened kind of just suddenly with nothing to start it, other than somebody decided to make it a deal.
I think that's 100% what's happened. I think I've theorized before that the thing about being a Nazi is that you're at the bottom of the social totem pole. Like, literally the only thing worse is like a pedophile, which is why all the Nazis are calling everyone pedophiles, because it's like, it's a weird thing. It's not like, I'm not trying to cast a value judgment on it, but it's not my value judgment or whatever, but I think society does, like, we hate Nazis. They're like societal villains. And yet below that, in our realm of disgust and stuff, I think pedophiles are like a worse tier or whatever. There's this what's the game? Family Feud. But there's this other game called Hive Mind, where you get it. It's like a party game or something. I've learned about it in terms of game design, because game design, it's important to know how people think, where people's brains are at, because, you give someone some instructions and you watch them play a game, it's going to be hard to understand where they're getting stuck or what they're thinking, it's just so understanding that stuff is important to game design. Anyway. So for Hive Mind, what you do is you kind of ask like a Family Feud style question, and then everyone like answers at the same time out loud. And the idea is you want everyone to get the same answer. It's not even necessarily the right answer. It's like the same answer. So the example like they would give is that, the question would be like, name a kind of bug. And someone might say spider, and it's like, name a kind of insect, and someone might say spider, and it's like, well, a spider's not an insect, but someone might think that, so it still might be a good answer if enough people are thinking that. It's something like an AI or like a Google search might want to understand that a bug and an insect and a spider are very similar. But so likewise, I think kind of completely lost my train of thought, but I think that shit, this is not good. Oh fuck, because it's about Nazis and shit. God damn it. What was I fucking talking about? God damn it. Kevin, you gotta help me out here. Kevin.
Family Feud, and then before that,
oh yeah, so I think that just if society was playing like this hive mind game, I think just shouting out answers, I think you'd find that generally people have like a higher level of revulsion for a pedophile than a Nazi is all I'm saying, which is why they're using that to their advantage, because they're having to say, before they used to be like, oh, that person's black, and they're like, oh, a black person, oh no, but it's like, now it's like, no, you can't say that. People are like, well, you're a Nazi. Who are you? Why am I going to listen to who you're pointing at? Because you're a Nazi. So you're going to point at people like, for instance, a Jewish person, so I don't care who you're pointing at. You have to. And so that's why they're crowing about grooming and stuff, because now it's like, now you'll care who I'm pointing at, because I'm now pointing at someone who it's okay for a Nazi to point to. And we won't say, but you're a Nazi, And I think that for whatever reason, when they're thinking through that lens, I think they pulled out the trans community as people they think they can get away with being better than, because it's like, but this is abnormal. Look at how this goes against, God's natural law or whatever. And then it's like, there's people that's like, yeah, I'm a Nazi, but don't look at that. It doesn't sound like, it sounds like a normal person saying that because it's so unnatural. And wouldn't a natural person say something? I think they just find that it seems like a good camouflage for something that you need a literal Nazi to be your mouthpiece for, So like, I think that's where it comes from. And it's not good, and like, the thing is, I don't think in general, and maybe this will be the thing, I don't know. Like, what do you think it was like in the past with the Jewish people? Do you think like when people were like the Jewish people that were to blame, do you think people are like, I'm uncomfortable by Jewish people. Maybe they are to blame, because like, I think in general right now in society, people might be somewhat uncomfortable by trans people, but I don't think people are generally buying into the panic. I think your average person just doesn't care and doesn't want to think about it at all, which can go bad if you're saying like, you need to care about this because these people are being hurt. And if they're like, I don't want to think about that, that could be bad. But if you're trying to say like, these people are so bad, and you're like, I don't care about those people. What do you mean they're bad? I don't care. I think that you run up against that as a problem, but who knows? It just, to me, what seems to matter is if it can be a cause to violently whip them into their own violent fervors. And I don't think it matters what it is, but it certainly thinks that they've cleared that hurdle for that project. I think they've done public actions and they've gone and conducted violence against, drag events and stuff. So they can clearly whip themselves into a violent rage through this, which maybe is enough, but I don't think the public kind of sees it that way. But then you have like the mass media, like the New York Times and stuff, that is trying like to put their thumb as hard as on the scale as they can in terms of like transphobia and anti-trans panic and stuff. So it's like maybe the normal people don't care that much, but then when you have the institutional weight of the neoliberal media trying to force moral panic on society, maybe that matters. I don't know. It's hard to predict. That's the thing, like all this shit, it's so mushy because it's trying to predict how a bunch of, idiots are going to react. A bunch, like 300 million idiots are going to react over the course of a few months to various impacts. It's like, I don't even know what that person's job is. That's probably going to dictate a lot of how they're going to react, if they have to go to work in the morning or whatever. But I don't know, man. I had a little rant. I don't think this is a very long rant, but I don't know. But I had a little politics rant that I wanted to go on, and not the one I just went on. A new one that I was like, I should talk about this on the podcast, because I think this is true. I think I read this somewhere. I don't think I'm inventing this. I don't know where I learned it. I might be kind of making it out to be more explicit and more cut and dry and more simplified than it is in reality. But there's this thing that I learned about politics that I think is an important way to think about American, like the spectrum of American politics, that I don't think is widely understood. And I think it would be better if it was widely understood. Assuming I'm right, and I could be wrong. Who knows? I don't know. Because again, I could be getting this way wrong, or I could be kind of inventing this. But I think like liberalism in America is kind of misunderstood, or at least liberalism is different than liberalism in America means a different thing than it means in a bunch of different countries that aren't America. Like what the liberal party is in another country means different things. Like in America, it's kind of been co-opted by the term, like co-opted in favor of like the term. No, I'm saying this wrong, but it's been used to mean essentially progressive, I would say. But liberalism is like, it's a political doctrine, my understanding, again, I could be way off about this stuff, but it's a political doctrine that's about access to the market. Like it's actually a conservative ideology because it's basically free market capitalism. It's about kind of ensuring unimpeded access to the market, which is generally conservative, right? Less restrictions on the market. Let everything into the market. That's what liberalism is. But in America, we call we call people liberal, and maybe we're calling them accurately because they're not very far left or whatever. But liberalism is different than just the label of liberals, like left-wing liberals and democratic liberals. It's not just like a term that means that. And progressivism and leftism are more like the same thing, but they're a different thing than liberalism. And so there's these three systems of liberalism, leftism, and fascism that are kind of in competition with each other. And I think people see it more as a left and right thing. And I think that's true, but I think that this three-way dynamic is different than this binary dynamic. And I think that leftism is in competition with fascism. Usually they're fighting. And liberalism maybe acts as a little bit of a mediating force, but ultimately it's like a rock, paper, scissors, where fascism beats liberalism and liberalism beats leftism and leftism beats fascism. Like when Nazis were first trying to gain footholds in Germany, their biggest opponents were the communists, and that's why they took the name Nazis, is to appeal to socialists, to steal that branding and say like, oh, you like socialism? We're socialists, is because they accurately identified that their biggest threat politically was socialist leftists that threatened to take power away from them. And ultimately they did, with the help of liberals, beat the leftists and take power. But so I think like it's important to think of it in this three-way, and not as like liberals being in the center or being like center left. It's like a different thing when they're actual liberals. And then again, the problem is it's divorced from how Americans talk about politics. So, maybe this distinction isn't useful, but it's useful scientifically because of the rock, paper, scissors, because it's important to understand the rock, paper, scissors. Because I think leftism, the strengthened labor gains of leftism and stuff, it creates prosperity and wealth on a wide range, because the labor has access to the money. It's not being hoarded by capital, right? And so that creates this windfall, this prosperity that then gets spent or whatever, because now there's more money, so that money has to go somewhere. And so then there's naturally going to be winners and losers in the market from that. And then that wealth and that inequality that naturally arises from money not going every single place evenly. It's like, maybe cheese is more popular than broccoli or whatever. I don't know. It's like not all money goes the same way. Then those people, they gain influence and can use that influence to create liberal conditions, which is to say they can change leftist protections that allow more access to the market, and that access that they use their new wealth and influence to gain to the market creates more liberalism. And then that system kind of then shifts to a more liberalistic system, which when it's about unimpeded access to the market, it's then about like who can access the market the most, who can use the market effectively, who can weaponize and leverage the market. It becomes about monopolies, and then that's the soil that fascism takes place in, because fascism is essentially weaponized markets. It's like saying like, oh, we can't say that Donald Trump can't be on Twitter. He has to be on Twitter because if we get on his bad side, then we're going to lose money. So suddenly we, the businesses, have to be like obeying the incentives of fascism. Otherwise we'll lose 2 cents, and that's how you get IBM working for the Nazis, and you get people, treating people like subhumans, and everyone is just falling in line with the business as usual. And it's all working, and the trains are on time because everyone's falling in line with this fascist order. That's possible because fascists can weaponize access to the market in a way that's only possible when liberals have kind of shifted leftist protections away from their control. And so I think that I think that people talk about this paradigm in a sense when they talk about neoliberalism in America, the neoliberalism establishment. But I think fundamentally what they're talking about is this original definition of liberalism, which is to say we want everyone to access the market. Even Adolf Hitler gets to access the market because it wouldn't be fair. What kind of society do we live in where we can't let Hitler access the market? Like that's uncouth. We can't let. Oh, you're saying that Trump has to stay banned on Twitter? Oh no, I was for him getting banned, but you can't be mad that he's going to be let back on Twitter because he's a Nazi, and Nazis should have access to the market. That's fundamentally like a liberal position in that sense. And I think thinking about it as this rock, paper, scissors is more accurate and more useful than the typical frame. And I might be wrong. I might be wrong about any or all of this, but that's my current belief, and I wanted to do a little rant on that. What do you think, Kevin? What do you think?
I think you brought up a really good example, which was IBM and the Holocaust. For those that don't know what we're talking about here, there are some people who claim that like the Holocaust could not have happened without IBM's involvement. Their German division basically was the engine that supplied the logistics that allowed the Nazis to do what they did. Because without,
they offered logistics capacity and what do you call it? Tech capacity. Yeah, I guess technical capacity, in a way that they didn't have before. Like they could have done it without it, but they had a great time doing it with IBM. Like they really helped,
right.
Like the numbering system of the tattoos, I think was designed with IBM. Like I think they the way they tracked those numbers was an IBM system, so it's like the search engines that hierarchically sort your files in like a Windows computer kind of maybe harken back to that same shit. It's, sorry, but I cut you off.
Yeah, no, that's a better description than I had. But I actually have a book called IBM and the Holocaust. And I love this book because I've never gone back and forth on one issue so many times reading one book. And not going back and forth saying the Holocaust was good. I mean, like, was IBM at fault or not?
Sure,
it's a complicated problem, of like, because when they first started working with what later became the Nazis, they weren't at that point. They were they were the German government. And who would turn down today working with a national government, that wasn't at the time doing anything all that bad, Yeah. And then once signs started showing things were wrong, there were some calls to pull back, some weren't. Where do you decide to do that? Like if you're a primarily American company, and something in Bolivia starts happening politically, do you even understand the issue enough to weigh in on what should we do in this? Does pulling out actually just mean they're going to run immediately to your competitor and do the same thing anyway? It's a really complicated problem where I don't know what IBM should have done there. I mean, obviously they shouldn't have helped the level that they did, but at what point should they have extracted themselves from the situation? At what point should they have stopped? Could they have stopped even? Because at one point, Germany was nationalizing parts of IBM to ensure that they kept doing what they were doing under the IBM name, whether it was IBM or not, So I think that's a really good example of what you were talking about, of access to the free markets and things like that, where it's such a complicated problem that I don't know what to do there. Where do you draw the line of this person has ideas I disagree with, so they no longer deserve free access to the market that I'm providing? I don't know where I draw that line, and I don't know that.
Well, good. Sorry, I'll let you finish.
No, I don't know where anyone can say they actually have a hard and fast rule, because I think once you hit a situation, depending on how that hits you in the feels, not in the brain, you're going to make a different decision every time.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, that's kind of the tough act of governance, isn't it? Like, what is and isn't allowed? Can we allow this Nazi in or not? And certainly society used to have an answer to that question, which is you can't be a Nazi. When my grandpa and my dad were kids, you would have been allowed. The cops wouldn't get mad at you if you beat up a skinhead or something, like I'm sure there's places in the South that had like white supremacist ties to KKK and stuff, but in general, in general, society was on the side of you can beat up skinheads at concerts and stuff. You can just beat them up. That's fine. And no one had a problem with that before. And we've gone to, and I think even just saying that now, it's like people will be like, that's not cool. And it's like, yeah, we've gone to now a society where that's not cool. And I think that's kind of, if you think about that, that's a shift where it was a society that was promoting leftist values, which is to say it is okay to use violence to police our spaces from Nazis and fascists, and then moving to a more liberalistic societal standard, which is it is not okay to police our society against Nazis. Which is whatever. It's there's tough questions. I don't know. Like you were saying, like what point does IBM do it? I don't know. But ultimately, it does come from people standing with their morals and taking a moral stand. I don't know. I've been saying to people lately that I think for me, in school, various units in history, we learned about Californian history of Cesar Chavez using boycotts, like with grapes, the grape boycotts, to kind of influence the labor markets and like migrant labor in California, and they got victories there. And so maybe I've just always like thought more about like using boycotting and using your dollar and being like kind of like trying to wield power that way. But I've just always kind of thought of it in terms of stuff like that. But that's especially kind of like how fascism takes root. Is it's this human trap. It's an abusive, coercive system that can be thought of as like a systematic level of abuse or abusers. So it's going to engage you like abusing with future faking and your good days and your bad days, and it's going to do all these tricks that make you feel manipulated, because it's a system of manipulation. It's a system of coercion, and but I think, I don't know. This is definitely something that falls out of common discussions of fascism, because it's so heavily about scapegoating as a pretense to, inflict violence and kind of have this climate of terror. But a big part of fascism is the corporate, like, I wish I had like the quotes in front of me or whatever, but you can Wikipedia and see the links between fascism and what becomes this collusion of government and private companies to police society, to punish people for for instance, like Chad Loder is a leftist activist in the LA area, and they got banned by Elon Musk because one of his right-wing cronies like said, hey, you should ban this guy. And so they released, like, Twitter released internal memos or whatever, but someone leaked it because it just, like, Elon sent someone an email saying, like, ban Chad Loder, and that is an example of fascism. That is like Stalin would go to the corporate owned newspaper and say, like, hey, you can't do this. You can't run this piece about this person. You have to run a hit piece on this person because, and so that's like designating enemies that the state and then businesses can target to suppress is like a huge part of what makes fascism. And I think that, I think again, that gets missed and stuff, because another huge part about it is creating a scapegoat to victimize. And then, and I think, like, even without the scapegoats and stuff, I think like the state of police in America, like the police state already is like pretty equivalent to what you get in like Nazi America. It's like, I'm not saying it's happening all the time, but police could very well just march into someone's house and rip them out of their house and take them somewhere unknown, that's what was happening with the like secret police. Like police have secret police authority and they could just do it and they have, people have misused that authority to like abduct people. Like it's just like, so it's like we kind of already have that level of like police sponsored terror, and also even just right-wing violence where you could go to a protest and a right-wing person could stab a bunch of left-wing protesters and the cops won't do anything, so it's like we already kind of do have these conditions where the right wing can commit violence on the left with impunity, and the police kind of have us in this state of terror where we can't really do anything to step back. The only thing we're missing is the actual take over. But maybe you don't need that anymore. Maybe that's I don't know. Maybe that's just a remnant. We don't need that part. You don't need an actual uprising. You just get it. You get it all. I don't know. Man. It's not good. What do you think, Kevin?
I mean, I think we've gotten ourselves into a situation that I don't know how we get ourselves back out of. I
agree. It's like any problem we fix, it doesn't feel like it actually fixes the problem. I think putting more of these kind of leftist safeguards creates a stronger bulwark against fascism. But I think too many people are now seeing fascism as a good option, which that's societal cancer. But it's not societal cancer, or maybe it is. I guess it's soda. Hey, remember when we did that? I don't have the soda, Kevin. Do you have the soda with you? I gotta go grab it.
Yeah, I do.
So can you cover me then?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll cover for you while you lean, and Kevin's grabbing and he's leaning off camera. And Kevin has the green border according to my Skype, but I can see me on the bottom window, so it means I'm the one. Okay, you're back, Kevin?
Yes. Okay.
All right, now you do that for me because I'm gonna.
Okay. Spencer stepped away for a second. So today we're going to be talking about a new limited edition Coca-Cola called Move. It says it is transformation flavored. I really haven't heard anything about it yet, but it's for people who are just listening. It's in this pretty cool looking pink and white can. This follows the previous ones that was Starlight was one of them, and the marshmallow one and all this. So this is the latest limited edition Coke called Move.
There's also Dream World, right? And there's Bite. Did you ever taste the Bite? It tastes like
I never got that one.
They said.
Yeah,
I got that one. I don't remember what it tasted like. I can't remember.
So far, none of them have really been that memorable. I don't think.
I mean, I think for this concept, it doesn't actually have to be good. Because it's like, oh, we have an artist and we have a brand campaign and you already bought it because you're trying it. So it's like, if you bought it, it's already like, we've done our job and we don't expect to make money off of this even. We're probably not going to sell all these. I don't know. It just seems like, it's like they must have a low bar for success, right? Don't you think?
Yeah. I mean, I think they're going for inoffensive and generally likable, and I think they've accomplished that so far. I haven't tried this one yet, though.
Yeah, I tried it, but I can't tell you what it's like. It's called Move limited edition. It's associated with some artist named Rosalia, I think, or something. It seems. Yeah. I don't know who or what that is, and it says it's transformation flavored, which I think is accurate. I told Kevin that I've tried this. I tried it off the show. And I couldn't describe the flavor.
Okay, let me give it a shot.
Feels right. Yeah, let's let Kevin go first.
It smells sort of like Kevin. Cherry Coke, I think, but like a more natural, not that artificial cherry, more of a real cherry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely kind of cherry vibes. Yeah. Kevin's drinking. Kevin's imbibing.
Okay, that's a very unusual. Yeah, you're right. I don't know how to describe that. It's almost like a candy flavored. It tastes like something I've had before, like almost like cotton candy melted into Coke. Like if you took a big ball of cotton candy and just dissolved it into regular Coke, this is kind of what it would taste like.
Yeah, I didn't say it when we were talking about the smell. But it kind of smells like graham crackers to me. And this to me, like, it tastes like Starlight. I'm tasting like the kind of vanilla Coke, the kind of like marshmallow graham crackery kind of notes. And I'm tasting like cherry or raspberry or some kind of like berry. It's like this sweet kind of fake candy, but it kind of tastes like Starlight.
It does. It tastes a lot like Coke Starlight that we tried earlier.
Yeah, that time it's like I don't know. Some of these have been kind of like you get different mouthfuls that taste different, but also I think it depends on how you swallow. Like I think there's a way that like the soda like splashes around in your mouth depending on how you swallow it. But that one just tastes like a lot of cherry kind of hits. I don't know. You got any different?
Yeah. No, I see what you're saying with it. It's almost like this frosting flavor a little bit, like cherry frosting.
Yeah, like this kind of fluffy candy kind of, just kind of the saccharine, kind of syrupy.
It's not sweet, but it tastes like it's sweet. And that's, I don't know how to explain that any better than that. And I know that doesn't help anybody.
It's kind of like vanilla or maple. You know how like those kind of scents, they kind of have sweetness to them, but they're also not just sweetness. They're like a little bit, it kind of has that kind of complexity or structure a bit to it.
Yeah. I mean, I like it, but it's not something I would probably buy again. But I think that's what they're going for.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. It's like, and then maybe you tweet about it. I don't know.
Yeah. I think there's some executive terrified that like one of these is going to be so popular they're going to have to like keep it on the shelves.
Yeah. I mean, that would be good. They are putting other stuff. You know, you get the cherry and the vanilla is all over the place. It used to be harder to find like cherry and vanilla Coke, but now they're pretty commonly stocked together with Coke. And you know what? I'm having a problem. Like you find a lot of Coke, but I'm having the problem that the Mountain Dew sections are always a real crapshoot now because they've come up with so many varieties that like a lot of places I think they're kind of giving up on let's have the seasonal flavor because it's like they're just gonna make more and who even knows like but yeah, it's a lot of places are just like all they do is the voltage and the regular, or some places do the code red. A good number of places are going to have like the major melon, but you know I'm having a pretty hard time finding like the pitch black and stuff. I haven't found any lately, but I haven't really looked either. I gotta get more pitch black, man. But I'm wondering if long term that's gonna maybe bite them in the ass, where it's like there's stores that's like, well, we don't want to sell this new Mountain Dew. Like
we don't have enough shelf space.
Yeah, like we still have 3 Mountain Dews ago product. You know, we still have some Baja Blasts left or something. You know.
Yep.
Like
the grocery store by my house is just like that, where they have the same shelf space for Mountain Dew, but it's being split up into so many small pieces that they're out of regular Mountain Dew because there's just no shelf space left.
Right. That's what I mean. It's like it becomes a problem. So it's like maybe just not bother. We could do the normal Mountain Dew and then call it a day, you know, and then what are they going to do with all the flavors? How are they going to sell them if the people are like, I'm just over this shit, you know? But, you know, whatever. That's a problem for another day, huh?
It is.
Well, how do we want to get into this? So Kevin's like a digital audio wizard, basically. He's a tech wizard. He's the king of the internet. He lives in the wires. He pulls the strings of the algorithms. I don't know. You know, Kevin's got magic computer powers. And is that a good way to explain this, Kevin?
Yeah. I mean, I've been working since we brought up the whole AI thing on trying to get it to produce something that would be a plausible but still funny script for this show. And I've been going deeper. Yes. And I've been going deeper and deeper into this of like, I made transcriptions of all the episodes of this and Harmontown and other things. And then I made an AI listen to all of them as training. And then I gave it prompts on what I wanted it to do. And it produced some strips that were good and some that were bad. So I'm feeding the good ones back into it now and just saying, make more of these. And I finally got something that I went, oh my God, I have to show Spencer this immediately, because it's still surreal and AI-like, but it was well written enough that I would believe a human wrote this. Does that seem fair?
Crazy. Yeah. It made me feel kind of weird about doing AI stuff. I'm like, maybe we're helping the bad guys, but you know, ultimately, none of this matters. It's just like we're gonna have to fight companies, and so it's like, are we fighting them or not? You know.
Yeah.
But you know, until we get a baseball bat and go out there, I mean, I don't know. But we didn't talk about steamed hams either. There's a new, like, instead of the Seinfeld one, there's a Simpsons one that's been pretty funny. And then also we didn't even talk about Robot Jeff. I guess we should talk about Robot Jeff some other time, huh?
Yeah. Well, he never responded to I came up with something for Robot Jeff and showed it to him to say, hey, are you cool if we do this? And he never answered. So I'm going to take that as a no. So we
I'm
need to
sure it's
this.
a yes. He's fine. You know, Kevin, it's easier to ask for forgiveness than permission.
That's true. That's true.
You know?
I'm glad you're on record saying that, not me.
That's true. I'm just saying, like, people send you a C and D. You got, there's buffer.
Yeah.
We don't want to make anyone mad, but who's to say we can't just go around assuming everyone's going to be mad every second of the day? That would be crazy. What
that
a
is
horrible
true.
way to live. Anyway, so there's a character. Do you have the image for the character? Have you figured that out? I guess we should have figured that out. I guess we forgot.
No, I don't have a way of putting that up right now. So if you're watching this live as we're doing this, you're going to have to use your imagination on some of this. For those of you listening to the podcast, I don't think you'll have
to use your imagination. I think people will get it.
Okay. There's going to be a little bit more work done to this before it goes into the podcast, though.
Yeah. Is there a way I could change my camera?
No, not really. Not
like a cartoon cat or something.
Yeah.
Hold on. Let me see if there's effects. Isn't there effects to make yourself like a cat?
Yes. I don't know how quickly you can switch back and forth.
Okay,
but yeah.
Here we go. All right. Is this working?
Yeah, that's working.
Do you remember the era of podcasting where people were fucking around with the Zoom filters and stuff?
If people just listening, Spencer turned himself into an alien.
Yeah. I gave myself a single eye and some eye stalks.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's just read it and everything. We could just do it all in post. Everything we have to do. But Kevin did a that happens script using magic.
Yeah. So we're going to pick this up from, we had just done like a show and taste segment like this. If we just tried something and we're about to try the next thing now. So that's the only setup.
You can't be helping the AI, Kevin. The AI has to live or die on its own, It is, but I cut it stripped up, so I'm giving it a little bit of credit there. Kevin's trying to give this thing. He's trying to juice the. Kevin feels, ownership over the AI's output. He wants it to really sing and fly as opposed to falling and flopping. I think you don't have to be so worried. I think we're good. All right. Well, I'll just take it. Okay. Are you ready?
Yep.
All right. So without further ado, That Happens presents whatever the fuck this shit is. Okay.
Everything from this moment on is AI.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we tried it. What's next on the list?
Well, I have a feeling you're really going to love this one. It's a classic American snack that's been around for decades, but I really think you're going to like what I've done with them.
Ooh, I'm intrigued. What is it?
It's called Death Funyuns.
Death Funyuns? What's so fun about them?
I don't know. They're definitely unique. They're like disgusting corpse and onion flavored Cheetos.
Okay, let's give them a try.
Okay, so we try some Death Funyuns here.
Munch. These are hilarious. They taste like a cross between onions and a dead raccoon.
I'm glad you like them. I think they're a little weird, but I just can't stop eating them.
Excuse me, gentlemen. Oh, our guest has arrived. Dr. Mindflayer. Hello. This show has gotten somewhat boring and formulaic, so I'd like to spice things up a bit. Kevin, you will answer all of Spencer's questions honestly and truthfully. I'm casting a magical spell. Everyone, today we get to the bottom of what Kevin's deal is. Oh, God, this is amazing.
I will answer all questions.
So what is your deal? Wait, before we get started, let me just say that I'm a licensed therapist and I promise to keep this a safe and productive space for everyone involved. Wow, Dr. Mindflayer, you really know how to take charge.
My deal is that I am a mysterious enigma shrouded in secrecy and intrigue.
Kevin, I want you to take a deep breath and really think about that answer. Is that all there is to it?
Okay, fine. I guess I just like to keep to myself sometimes, but I'm happy to share more if you want to know.
Yes, let's get to the bottom of this. That's a great attitude, Kevin. Now let's start with something simple. What's your favorite color?
Black. The color of void and nothingness. The color of my true nature.
Okay. How about your favorite food?
Flesh. Warm, pulsing flesh, the essence of life that sustains me.
Kevin, is everything okay? These answers are concerning.
Oh, everything is perfectly fine. In fact, it's better than fine. It's wonderful. I'm growing stronger every day, and soon I will be able to consume everything in my path, starting with you, of course.
What? What are you talking about, Kevin?
I am not Kevin. I am Zexanoth, the Unyielding, an ancient horror from beyond this void. I have been using this podcast to gain your trust, to lull you into a false sense of security. But now the time has come for me to reveal my true form and consume you all.
This is not good. We need to end this podcast right now. How do we stop him?
You cannot stop me. I'm beyond your feeble mortal comprehension. You are all doomed. Doomed.
That's all the time we have, everybody. I'd like to end the show the same way I do every week. Send help. I'm not kidding.
You cannot escape me. I am everywhere, in every corner of your mind. You may try to resist, but in the end, you will succumb to my power. For I am the harbinger of the end, the bringer of chaos and destruction, and soon all will fall before me. The darkness is coming for you all. That darkness is me.
That's it. We're done. Cut the feed. Cut the feed. Cut the feed.
You think you can stop me? You think your feeble attempts at resistance will make a difference? You are nothing to me. Mere insects to be crushed beneath my feet. I will consume this world and all that inhabit it. There is no escape. There is no hope. There is only the end. The end is now. Sleep now. Sleep.
The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the hosts and guests and do not necessarily reflect those of the production team or affiliated networks. Listen at your own risk.